So you want to get the key moments, the real implications of a big legal testimony, but wading through hours of court transcripts. Not exactly your plan, right?
Probably not.
Well, you've landed in the right place. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to understanding what actually matters.
And today, we're really digging into Day 5, the cross-examination of Cassie Ventura in the Shaun Diddy Combs trial.
Exactly. And look, we're not just guessing here. This is based on direct courtroom quotes. Inner City Press reported them on X.com literally yesterday, May 16th, 2025.
Straight from the source. No exaggeration, no spin. It's just what was said.
Right.
And we should mention, just like the original reporting did, this stuff is sensitive. Viewer discretion was advised. And we're, keeping that in mind, too.
Definitely. So our mission today, pull out the really important exchanges, pinpoint the key questions, the key answers. Basically, shed light on the arguments and the revelations from her time on the stand.
Okay, so where do we start? The defense kicked things off by looking at her previous statements.
Yeah, they zeroed in on how she described Mr. Combs at that Intercontinental event. She'd apparently said he was blacked out.
But they contrasted that with something she wrote, which just said intoxicated.
Right, so the defense is immediately probing the language, looking for nuance, maybe inconsistencies.
Exactly. They pushed on what blacked out meant to her.
And she clarified, right.
Yeah.
Said for her, in that context, it meant drugs and alcohol involved, not just being drunk.
Okay, so that sets a certain tone. Then things got interesting with a text message.
Oh, yeah. This was shortly after that Intercontinental event. The defense brings up a text from Mr. Combs to Cassie.
And it read, "I am so horny for you."
Predictably, the prosecution objected pretty quickly.
Yeah, likely arguing it wasn't directly related to the core allegations, the abuse or control.
But the defense kept going with it.
And Cassie's response is quite telling, I think. She acknowledged it was him, expressing how he felt.
But she replied, "We need a different vibe than Friday at the Intercontinental." That's pretty direct.
It is. And his response, "Buck Friday, I don't even want to do that again."
To which she texted back, "LOL. True."
That whole exchange, it really suggests they both had a negative view of whatever happened that Friday, doesn't it?
Seems like it. A shared understanding, maybe. Okay, so from there, the focus shifted.
Yeah, it moved towards jealousy, control within the relationship. They brought up an incident where he apparently thought she was cheating.
This was in a car, right? He told her to call her mom and then just took her phone while she was on the call.
That's how it was described. It seems like a moment the defense wanted to highlight, maybe to show a general relationship conflict.
Could be. And it led to a big fight, apparently. He left for hours.
Long enough that her mother actually called the police. That detail certainly escalates things.
It really does. It paints a picture of him having, significant control, maybe trying to isolate her.
And part of that was him allegedly going through her phone. He even called an NFL player he was jealous of.
Yeah, though the testimony apparently mentioned some uncertainty if that player is still active.
Okay, so this line of questioning, it seems aimed at building a narrative, right? A history of conflict, maybe possessiveness from Mr. Combs, trying to contextualize things.
There was another phone incident mentioned, too, from 2013, involving Chris Brown.
Right. He allegedly took her phone then, too, after finding out she was, quote, dancing with Brown.
She didn't remember it at first, apparently, not until they showed her something from 2013.
And the defense didn't stop there. They listed other things he allegedly took when angry.
Her car, her passport.
Yeah.
She confirmed those instances.
So a pattern of controlling behavior being alleged. Then the questioning took another turn towards rehab and trauma treatment.
This became a pretty big focus, didn't it?
It did. They briefly touched on Mr. Combs being in rehab, which she remembered vaguely.
And she mentioned her own trip to Sedona, Arizona, said it was to get away from the drugs.
But then the defense really dove into her personal history with rehab and therapy.
Yeah, like her current use of Suboxone or something similar for opioid addiction. The prosecution objected, but it was allowed.
It's notable how deep they went here. Questioning her about writing a book at a facility that treats sexual compulsion. Again, objection, sidebar.
They kept going. Ask about neurofeedback therapy.
Which she explained was for helping with trauma processing.
And EMDR therapy, too.
Yeah, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's often used for PTSD. She confirmed she was treated for PTSD when she was 22.
And the defense tried to make a point about her age, her development then, but she clarified.
So this intense focus on her therapy. What's the strategy? Maybe suggesting pre-existing vulnerabilities that could affect her perception, or just understanding her background.
It's a really key question. It felt like they were trying to build a profile, maybe, understand her emotional state, which then led into the topic of freak-offs.
Ah, yes. An exchange came up about a message, something about freak off without ketamine.
That prompted the prosecution to ask for a break, right? To talk with counsel.
It did. When they came back, the questioning revealed another message from Mr. Combs.
Calling her predictable because she hadn't told him she didn't want to do freakouts anymore.
Exactly. And she admitted she hadn't explicitly said that to him.
There was also something about him suggesting freaking off with a girl.
Yes, indicating it was a theme in their interactions. So this paints a picture of ongoing, disturbing requests, which brings us to the relationship actually ending.
The timeline around the breakup got scrutinized too. She testified about finding a photo, Mr. Combs with someone named Gina.
That happened while she was staying with her parents, and she said that's when she decided to break up.
She wasn't sure if he threatened her then, but remembered him suggesting couples counseling.
Which seems different from what was described as a closure conversation in August 2018. That's when he invited her to Burning Man.
Right, and the defense showed messages where she expressed anger, saying her family doesn't share their business, and that she needed to be prioritized over Kim and Gina.
And she explicitly called that photo of Gina the nail in the coffin.
Okay, but then there was confusion about the timing of an alleged incident after a Malibu restaurant dinner.
Yeah, her civil lawsuit apparently said September 2018, but she confirmed meeting U.S. authorities in November 2023, and again, more recently, around April 8th, 2025.
And in that earlier meeting, she apparently said the incident happened after he got back from Burning Man, and that he acted strangely at that dinner.
Though she testified she didn't recall using the exact word strangely, details matter here.
Definitely. Then the questioning moved to a message she sent to FB.
Who she identified as Frank Black, a name Mr. Combs apparently used sometimes.
And his reply mentioned an investors conference. Just sort of mundane.
But then came a very direct question. You still have love for him?
How did she answer that?
It was nuanced. She said, I have love for the past and what it was.
So separating past feelings from the present. Interesting.
Very. Then the focus shifted again to a yoga instructor identified only as DX3309.
Right. Cassie first said she'd stopped even caring about this person, but then admitted she did care.
And there was an exchange mentioned where Mr. Combs apparently suggested they date other people, but just, talk about it.
Then her response.
She expressed love for him, but said she preferred not to be just one of his girlfriends.
This led to talk about meeting up, her studio plans.
Yeah, and him asking if he could hold her. Her reply was, we can embrace LOL. She confirmed she meant she wanted to hug him.
Okay, but then came a really complex moment in the testimony.
Extremely complex. She testified that later that night she had intercourse with Mr. Combs.
And during that, her current husband FaceTimed her.
That's what she testified. She said she didn't know what her husband knew at that exact moment, but that he found out later. Prosecution objected, but it was allowed.
Wow. That adds layers of ambiguity to where things stood between them then.
Absolutely. It makes understanding the dynamic really challenging.
Okay, so moving on from that.
Yeah.
The period after Mrs. Porter's memorial service came up.
Yes. Cassie mentioned texting Mr. Combs about going home, and she expressed being hurt because he'd called Kim his soulmate.
She also confirmed she never saw him again after that memorial service.
And he apparently sent messages after that, calling her beautiful mother, saying, you are always my ride or die.
How did she react to that?
She said it was nice, but not something she was craving or needing then.
They also acknowledged the impact they had on each other, over 11 years.
Yeah.
Shaping each other.
It's a long time. Some background details also emerged.
Like her husband being a physical trainer and her upbringing in Connecticut being relatively modest.
Yeah. And she'd been prepping for a tool with an engineer, Matt Ta.
But that got canceled after she settled her lawsuit with Mr. Combs, right?
It did, though she denied the cancellation was because she didn't need the money anymore.
And it was mentioned that after that hotel video came out, she posted on Instagram,
saying domestic violence is the issue. She confirmed she still feels that way.
Okay, then we get to this final text exchange they presented in the cross-examination. It felt significant.
Definitely loaded, Mr. Combs. Want to freak off one last time?
And her reply, I don't want it to be the last time. I want freak off for the first time.
Very ambiguous, right? Open to interpretation.
But the prosecution came back to this on the redirect examination. They provided more context.
They did. Cassie explained her next text Immediately after that one was, yes, I'm horny, just got over a UTI.
Okay, that adds a different dimension, a very physical, immediate reality check to the previous ambiguity.
Absolutely. The prosecution then asked about the relationship overall, those periods of kindness, of love over 11 years. Were they sustained?
Defense objected, but she answered.
She did, said no, they weren't sustained, that ultimately it was a world of chaos.
She also stated that during those 11 years, she only wanted to have sex with him.
And there was a quick mention of him texting "seduce me all day" and her writing about Foss. The meaning wasn't explained, though.
She confirmed she could cancel work for freak-offs if he told her to.
Yeah, and they brought up that 2013 incident again during the movie shoot in South Africa. She blocked him. He contacted her through Mia.
Claiming he didn't remember her, which she didn't believe.
Right. And then the con trip allegation resurfaced, him allegedly playing a video of her with an escort, threatening to release it.
And that when they got back to New York, he allegedly demanded a freak-off, or he'd release the video.
The prosecution made sure to clarify that when he asked, "You ready for tonight?" she understood it to mean a demand for a freak-off.
Then came a really direct question from the prosecution.
A very powerful one. Despite a defense objection, they asked if she had any doubt that Mr. Combs had redacted based on sensitivity.
And her answer?
I have no doubt. Unequivocal.
Wow. She also confirmed again having consensual sex after the alleged August 2018 incident, the night her husband FaceTimed.
Yes. And she repeated her reason for canceling the tour, feeling overwhelmed after filing the suit, dealing with the past. She also said she doesn't plan more lawsuits.
There was even a question about the settlement money, wasn't there? Would she return the $20 million to get her agency back?
Yes, another objection, but she answered yes.
She also confirmed he beat her during freak-offs, that she was open to them initially, but told him more than once she didn't want them anymore.
Citing fears for her safety, her career, and maybe paradoxically for the relationship itself, love.
Then came the recross-examination by the defense. What was their angle there?
Seemed like trying to reframe things. They emphasized she knew freak-offs were his preference, that it was part of being his girlfriend, trying to suggest it was understood, at least initially.
And they confirmed she kept her old phones, her devices.
Yes, and that freak-off videos were on devices from around 2012, 2014. The exact year seemed a bit uncertain.
The defense also brought up the benefits of the relationship again, right?
Yeah.
Access to producers, working with big names.
Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, Pusha T beyond Kid Cudi, trying to show career advantages.
The judge apparently had to step in about listing too many names.
Seems so. They also touched on her being self-conscious about her music talent, mentioning a bad performance on 106 in Park, her music videos.
That led to another sidebar with the judge briefly.
Yeah. She confirmed close relationships with Drock, like a brother, and her friend Mia.
And the defense noted that sometimes their text conversations started explicitly from both sides.
She repeated feeling overwhelmed after filing the suit. And then, a major revelation during recross.
What was that?
She confirmed she received a settlement from the Intercontinental Hotel for $10 million just last week. Right before this trial started, prosecution objected again, overruled.
$10 million from the hotel.
Yeah.
Just last week.
Yeah.
That's significant context.
Very significant. And her reason for keeping the old devices, fear. Fear of what was on them, not wanting to take them to a regular repair shop like the Apple Store.
And that was it. End of her testimony.
That was the end of Cassie Ventura's testimony.
Hmm.
The judge then announced the next witness, special agent.
Which the defense immediately objected to, along with another potential witness, Don Richard.
And the judge basically told them to sort out those objections before coming back into court.
Okay. Wow. That is a lot to process from just one day of cross-examination. So, pulling back, what are the main threads here? The defense is clearly attacking credibility, memory, motivations.
Definitely. Highlighting inconsistencies, the complexity of the relationship, the financial settlements now from both parties involved. They're building a case that it wasn't a simple victim-aggressor narrative.
While the prosecution is hammering home the allegations of control, coercion, the alleged assaults, the fears she expressed.
Trying to keep the focus on the core claims of abuse, despite the relationship's complexities or her own past struggles. That $10 million hotel settlement adds a whole new wrinkle just before trial, too.
That contrast she described between kindness and a world of chaos really sticks out. In the details about the freak-offs, the alleged video threat, it's incredibly disturbing stuff. For you, listening to this, what stands out? What questions remain?
Yeah, it's complex. You have these moments of seeming affection or connection juxtaposed with really dark allegations. How does one reconcile the text exchanges, the consensual encounter after an alleged assault, with the claims of long-term abuse and control?
And what does the timing of that hotel settlement mean? How will this special agent testimony shift the narrative next? This deep dive really shows a relationship marked by intense power dynamics, serious allegations, and a legal fight that is clearly just getting started.